Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Breaking Bells. What is up, everybody? Bobby here, the Nintendo Guru, joined by the greatest artist in all the land, my personally favorite artist in all the land. So much so that I take his artwork and I fix it all the time. What do you want to say, Adam? Go ahead.
We gotta. This is a family show.
This is a family show. Yes. Be careful. Tread lightly, my friend. Now, how you doing, Adam? I'm just teasing.
I am doing great. You are my fourth podcast this weekend, which is absolutely absurd.
Really?
We recorded 3 of our own yesterday.
Oh, okay, well, no, I'm not worried about it. I thought you were cheating on me going with other people, man.
No, I don't guess for anybody but you, Bobby.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
I've been looking forward to this. I unfortunately had to delay it last time we had this set, so I'm here and I'm ready. I'm a fountain of Animal Crossing knowledge for you.
We'll see. The one thing I do want to say is, so people are looking at this video right now and they're seeing the overlay and all this stuff, and I used the artwork that Adam created for this show. I want to tell a little backstory to this, though, because this is kind of fun before we jump into all the stuff. Adam, for those that don't know, he's truly a phenomenal artist, and I go to him for everything that I need when it comes to all my logos and all that stuff. So I had gone to him, I think I had come to you pre-E3, and was like, hey man, I have this idea for a show that I want to do when I come back. And the show is it's an Animal Crossing podcast, but it's called Breaking Bells. It's a play on Breaking Bad, but we're going to call it Breaking Bells. I said, I have this vision of KK Slider and Tom Nook dressed like Jesse Pinkman and Walter White, sitting on the couch with their jumpsuits on and all that. So Adam was like, I really like the idea. I could do this. So he gets to working on it. I will say this, it's the quickest thing I ever got returned from him, which means I really piqued his interest. He really got into this one.
Nobody has ever asked me to draw anything quite like this before.
But he messages me and he goes, this is kind of disturbing, but I think it turned out really good. He sends me the images, far exceeding what I had in my mind. I really didn't think it's an exact replica of that scene, just with KK and Tom Nook. And then we got like bags of bells on the table and like beer bottles and stuff. It's perfect, man.
The air filtration masks. I'm sitting here and I'm drawing this, and like the entire time I knew what you were going for.
Yeah,
and I've got like I'm on Google image search and I'm pulling pictures from the show to try to get like color reference and stuff for the trailer. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't until I was like, I don't know, like 60-70% through the actual art that I was just like, this is seriously messed up. Like I registered what I was drawing, but it wasn't until like the characters were really fully realized that I'm like, okay, this is a dog and like a raccoon cooking meth in a trailer. This ain't right. Like I got a message Bobby and just tell him exactly how I'm feeling. Well, I think it turned out pretty good.
I think it turned out really, really good. It's hands down my favorite thing that you ever did. This and the behind the scenes of Jules Watcham were probably 2 of my favorite that you did. But this one I just love. I love this one so much. And the funny thing is, it's like, it just shows me that like you always come, and I'm going to listen. Adam on Twitter tries to take this moral high ground, like he's the be all end all. At the end of the day, he'll do anything for money. So
yeah.
You just call him up or you text him and say, "Hey man, I got $50. What will you do for $50?" And I assure you get a lot done in $50.
Oh, I can do so much for $50, dude. So much.
Oh my God.
No idea.
Okay, So let's rein it back in.
All right.
For those who don't know, this is an Animal Crossing podcast, and what the main gist of the show is, what I like to do with the show is, I like to bring on guests every single week and kind of get their origin story, their what got them into Animal Crossing. The biggest thing that Animal Crossing fans will find is people will come to them and go, why should I care about this game? What's the reason I should play this game? And you don't necessarily have an answer. And the one thing that I've learned in doing this show is everybody has a different story of why they started playing it. Most people don't want to play it the first time they start playing it, and then all of a sudden it turns into something that they absolutely love. So with that, Adam, I would like to ask you, what is the first Animal Crossing game that you ever played?
Well, I'm an old timer.
Mm-hmm.
So my first Animal Crossing is Welcome to Animal Crossing for the GameCube.
Mm-hmm.
Probably still my favorite if I were to pick.
Don't jump ahead of my questions.
What's that?
Don't jump ahead on my questions.
All right.
Come on.
Well, maybe I'll mix it up. Maybe I'm gonna say Pocket Cam. You don't know. I lost so much time, so much of my life to that game. It was so unique. I was a huge Sims fan.
Yeah.
So this was like a different kind of slant on that gameplay mechanic, but for a console, because I'm a console gamer.
Yeah.
Dude, I loved that Animal Crossing game so much, even though I had to get like the extra special memory card for it. And remember that you had to have like a custom memory card that was bigger than all the other ones. So
yeah.
Just so you could save your stuff in this game. But man, there was something special about that classic game for sure.
How did you get introduced to it?
You know, I've always been like very enthusiastic about the game industry. So even in a time where, that was, I don't even know where the internet was at that point, honestly.
It was just starting. Like the GameCube did have internet access, but Nintendo didn't do anything with it that way. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken,
because that was still not.
Well, God, don't start. Right now, your brother, if he's listening, is fist pumping like, "Good dig, Adam." But, but the thing is, like, PS2 has internet. It's just starting to take advantage of it. Xbox 360 is just coming into the fold as well. Microsoft, they're taking full advantage of it. But with Nintendo, as anything, they're always a little behind and stuff. So they didn't push the online experience with GameCube.
But even like, okay, so that was in an age then where most people were getting their information from magazines, right? Like nobody's going to like IGN at this point. So like I'm still collecting Game Fan and Game Informer and EGM. So I was always a guy who like had my ear to the ground when it came to what was coming down the pipeline. So I'm sure this was something that I saw, and being a Nintendo super fan, it just clicked. I wasn't one of these guys who was like, I'm not going to play this crap. I had no reservations about playing games that have aesthetics that look like they're geared towards kids, which obviously Animal Crossing does. I mean, it's a bunch of walking and talking animals in a little forest village. I love this stuff. So I don't remember exactly what it was that turned me on to the experience, but I do remember being instantly in on it.
Okay.
Like I'm ready to jump in.
What from the original Animal Crossing do you remember? Like what's some highlights of that game that just jog your memory?
Obviously the mechanics were new. Like Animal Crossing is a very iterative series where there's incremental changes, but for the most part the backbone is the same. But so this was a time where that internal clock was a huge deal. I would stay up till like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning just to see what that world was like. I mean, obviously I could have messed with my internal settings and seen that at any point, but I wasn't one of those people that was going to game the game.
Yeah.
One of the things that I personally was super hooked on was collecting gyroids.
Okay.
I was a gyroid fiend, and I would collect these things and absolutely fill my basement. My basement was nothing but gyroids. So you'd walk down the stairs and it's just wall to wall, and they're all turned on. wall-to-wall gyroids just boinging and dancing all over the place. For some reason, those things were like super addictive to me, whereas some people were looking to complete their collections of fossils or fish.
Yep.
I wanted an army of gyroids.
That's crazy. And that's what I love. Honestly, that's what I love about the show, because nobody has said that yet. Like, everybody else, nobody, like, people, some people are just like, I don't even know what they do. You know, like, I don't even know what the point of them are. And then, but this is what I love about this game, is it reminds me a lot of, like, Breath of the Wild, where it's the same game. We go to the store, we buy the same exact game, but our journeys are totally different.
Yep.
And it's because of the way the game is set up and the stuff you do. That's interesting, man. So what do you do with it? I mean, do you just have them sitting there, or do you have the music on, or what's your thing with it?
Yep, you get some music playing and you activate them all, because they would sing or dance or whatever based on, but there was like different styles of gyroids, and if I remember correctly, each gyroid set had like 3. There was like a skinny one, and then like a medium one, and then a jumbo one.
And some of them had 4, but most had 3.
Okay.
Some did have 4, but most had 3.
And my goal was not necessarily to collect sets, but it was just to have just this bizarre, diverse, because some of them were like super futuristic, and some of them looked like they were from South America, and you know, they would all project different sounds based on, you know, their visual aesthetic. But I just wanted as many as I could, and that was the entirety of that level of my house, was just these weird singing robot things that didn't really seem to serve a purpose in the game necessarily. But I loved them. I don't know what it was about it. I just loved everything about those gyroids.
That's amazing. I'm really taking I find that so interesting. Because, again, like, I've been doing this show for, I think at this point, I'm up to, you're probably going to come in and be like the 15th guest that I've had on the show so far. And it's like, it just amazes me that's your thing. And I wouldn't think that from you. Like, I would have thought that, like, the art aspect of it would have gotten you into it, like the designing of the pixel art and all that stuff, because that's another thing that I felt was way ahead of its time.
Yeah.
To draw these pixel art characters, or whatever you want to draw in pixel art, and then slap them on shirts. You know?
I mean, I certainly took full advantage of, like, composing your own town theme and designing. I got a kick out of, like, designing shirts and then putting them in the. I don't know if this was in the original game. I'm kind of like blending my Animal Crossing experiences.
It was.
You would see villagers then wearing your shirt around town. I got a big kick out of that kind of stuff too,
that was
for
cool.
sure.
That was so cool.
But when it came to putting my footprint on my town, the thing that I prided myself most on, it wasn't hearing the music on the hour. It wasn't seeing people wearing my shirt.
Say it again.
I love teaching the animals to swear.
Oh, Jesus.
Or insult you. I took great pride in taking these cuddly little furry creatures, and they would ask you for something cool to say, and so before long I had little duckies coming up and saying, "How's it going, Jackwad?" And that to me was just like, you know, it's like raising a child. You give them the best of you, and then you watch that blossom and spread and influence the entire town, and pretty soon we're all jackwads.
Yeah, that's funny. Oh my God, that's so funny. I've done well. It doesn't. Let's be fair. It doesn't let you swear.
You got to be creative.
You got to be creative.
You can't be sloppy. You can't just drop an F-bomb. They won't let you do that.
Well, you could do PHUC.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what I used to do. I used
to think outside the box.
Yeah, you can't just do, whatever. But it's, oh my God, only you. Why am I not surprised?
There's a way.
This is true. So, you played the GameCube version. Did you move on to Wild World when that came out on the DS?
I did. I actually did play. That's the only portable Animal Crossing that I played. So I did get Wild World at the time. Mm-hmm. I'm not much of a handheld gamer. You know this.
Yeah.
I mean, I like my big screen TVs. I like my graphics to be the best they can be. So playing it on the little mini screen, I mean, it was nice to have it with me, but I just couldn't get as into it as I could,
Yeah.
even though the accessibility was certainly better.
Yeah.
You know, it's easier to play whenever, but for some reason that's just never clicked with me. And because of that, I completely missed out on what everybody says is like the best Animal Crossing game there is.
I can't believe you didn't play New Leaf.
Never once.
Oh my
Never once
God.
have I played New Leaf.
Oh my God, that's mind-numbing to me. That's crazy.
So I couldn't tell you.
So that's why the game. That's why the GameCube is probably your favorite one then.
Well, and I'm actually really fond of City Folk. I like City Folk quite a bit. And if you were going to ask me like which game I've played the most of, it probably is City Folk. I played that game to no end with my who's now my wife. She was my girlfriend at the time. It was the first game that I got her into.
See, that's how I was with Tony. That was the first. I mean, I had her playing the GameCube one before that came out. So when City Folk got announced, I was like, "You got to try this game." And she was like, all of a sudden, she started playing it on a GameCube. She fell in love with it. And then when City Folk hit, we just deep dove in, man. And it was the same thing. Like, you had to share the town. It made her go out and make us get a second Wii because she couldn't share with me. I was like a Stalin. Like I was you're gonna do what I'm a dictator. I'm just looking around like, don't run, don't stay on the path, don't. Like,
right, yeah.
Because that was a game that was the first game that the grass disappeared if you ran, or if you walked the same path all the time, the grass would disappear. Which I thought that was so ingenious. Just the only problem was like I was out of grass like within 2 days. Because all the grass disappeared.
Well, once I realized that, I'm like designing cobblestone streets and just the whole town is painted.
I did the same thing. But the coolest thing was, I did this with City Folk. So I laid paths everywhere, right? And then you stay on those paths all the time. Just everywhere I went, I stay on the paths. Then what happens is, after a little bit of time, like a month or two, you pull all those paths up, and now you have natural paths throughout the town.
Right.
With that game, I didn't try it in New Leaf. I actually laid them and kept them there, but it was cool to like pull those paths up, and then now you have actual natural, beautiful paths all over the place. It was so cool looking, but it took me literally like I would say 3 months to grow all my grass back. Oh, it was devastating, man. And there was tricks you had to put. Like if you put flowers down, the grass would grow quicker around where the flowers were. It was horrible. Yep. Horrible.
Yeah, that was kind of an obsession of mine too, is once I had my paths laid, then I wanted to have like rows of flowers kind of accenting the streets.
Yeah.
I spent way too much time I mean, when you really think about what you're doing in this game, you're just like walking around. I'm playing 45 minutes. I'm walking around and watering virtual flowers so they don't die. And I mean, it's an impossible game to explain to somebody why it's actually appealing, because when you break it down and you get down to brass tacks, it doesn't sound fun, but it absolutely is.
So with City Folk, it's such a drastic change from the GameCube version. But would you still say that the GameCube version is your favorite version?
I think so, because I think that they took out some of the stuff that really made that version unique, like the NES emulators.
Yes.
There were certain things about that original game that they spoke to me a little bit more, and I don't know if it was because it was like a new experience, and the first time is always the best time or whatever. There's certainly things in City Folk that I like more. Like Brewster's Cafe, there's a lot of stuff in there that made it better. Yeah. But it was also clearly just an iteration and not a huge step up. That I still think I would say that the original is my favorite.
Well, the original had a lot of stuff like the fetch questing was kind of cool. In the original, where someone would ask you to take a book to someone, and then you would take the book to them, and you would get prizes sometime. And then after you did it like 1 or 2 times, The third person would have you like running all over. Like you go ask this person for something. Oh, I lent it to this person. You go to that person. Oh no, I lent it to that person.
Yeah.
That would get a little annoying. But I understood what they were doing. They were just trying to make it a little bit more difficult for you to get items rather than just do the same thing over and over and over again all day.
Right. Another thing is that original game had my favorite villager of all time, who I've never seen again in any other game. And it's so stupid to get attached to a little digital character that doesn't really have any backstory. There's no real connection there other than you're just like, you're my dude, you know?
Yeah,
and that game had my dude. And I have yet to find him since then. So there's a special attachment there.
Do you know his name?
It was Aziz, and he was a blue-haired lion.
Oh, yeah.
I think he was one of like those muscly guys. You know, there's like what 10 sets of personalities.
Yeah, like jocks and
yeah,
all that stuff.
And this blue lion named Aziz, who would, he was just. I don't know if I imagined it or if the game like programs you to have a best friend in the village, but this guy would always find me, and we'd always just have a great time together.
Yeah.
And man, I miss Aziz.
Mine is Bill. He's my favorite. He's a little brown duck.
I've heard you talk about Bill.
I love Bill, dude. I love him so much, dude. He is every game. Somehow he just shows up in my town. The very first one, he was my first villager that actually walked up to me. And I started talking to him, and he was a jock. So he's trash talking me. And I love that. I was like, this is so cool, man. And he'd be like, I'd wake, like if I'd go in and play, a lot of times I'd play in the morning before I went to work. And then one day I just didn't go in the morning. I skipped and I came back after work and I started playing. And he's like, where were you at this morning? Like, I was out working up a sweat, and where were you at? You're lazy, you're a butt. And I'm like, what? Like, this dude's trash talking me, man. I fell in love, man. The other one that I really like is Stitches, and he came around during City Folk. Stitches is a teddy bear, or a bear, that looks like a teddy bear with a bunch of different color patches on him.
I don't think I've ever seen Stitches.
So he's multicolored, but he has all these different, like, patches, and you see Stitches where he looks like a teddy bear.
It's like a Build-A-Bear kind of thing, huh?
Kind of, yeah. But the cool thing about Stitches is he's in the comic books and stuff. So he'll be like
comic books,
like just comic books. He'll like be talking about superheroes and stuff. And
he's in. I thought you said he's in the.
No. He's into. No. He's into comic books. Like that's his thing. Like he'll talk about superheroes, and so it's like he clicked with me because at the time I was like I was buying comics, I was into comics. So it's kind of cool stuff that they do. It kills me that you did not play New Leaf, dude. I cannot believe that.
There was one game that had me on the edge of buying a 3DS. It was that. I fooled myself into believing that there would be an Animal Crossing on Wii U.
I thought the same thing, man. I really did.
It wasn't helped by the Plaza. Once that Plaza dropped, I was like, well, of course they're making it, because why would they do this if they weren't going to have a traditional Animal Crossing game? So if I would have known that I would have been starved of Animal Crossing for this long, I probably would have got it. But I just kept telling myself for every year, they're going to announce it. They're going to announce it. And they never have. And that's part of why my hype level for this Switch game is through the friggin' stratosphere, because I have not played an Animal Crossing game since the Wii.
Ooh.
You
wow,
know?
Dude.
And my experience being sucked into this again with City Folk was so strong. And with me, gaming is all about like the best games are tied to life experience.
Yeah.
Right? The best, when I look back at my favorite video games, they are tied to moments in my life that really matter to me.
Yeah.
And City Folk came in at a time where me and my now my wife were living together and like really starting our relationship, and that is such a memorable moment in my life.
Yeah.
And this every time I think on Animal Crossing, I think on that. And now I'm at a point where I have two kids, one of which is heavily into video games.
Yes.
Like he is the little version of me if ever there was one. And so knowing that he's going to be right at the perfect point where he's like learning to read, and he can perfectly control any game you put in his hands.
Yeah.
Just knowing what this experience is going to be like with my family, I'm just so ready for it, dude. I'm so ready for it.
Here's my question for you.
Mm-hmm.
When you guys played on the City Folk, I'm assuming you shared a town.
We did.
Was it, take me back, was it a situation where you basically controlled everything, or did she play just as much as you? Like, what was her experience in all this?
We had well, it might not have been unwritten. We had laws in our city.
I love it.
We played for a couple of weeks, and then it became apparent, okay, you know what? We're going to have to work out a system here if this is going to work. So our system was, I controlled the upper level of the city, because there's like that dividing cliff.
Yeah.
So anything on the upper level was mine to pillage.
Okay.
I shook all those trees.
Oh, wow.
I hit those rocks. I dug up whatever was up there, and anything below that was hers. When it comes to things that took time to replenish.
Yeah.
So that way it was kind of split up evenly. I wasn't harvesting all the fruit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that was kind of how we set it. And then we would play. I can remember I'd play for like an hour, going around collecting my stuff, talking to my people, and she'd have her spreadsheet out of like what the fish were that she had caught, what
I love it.
were, and like when we'd go on like game FAQs.
Yeah.
You'd get when things are available, what season, what time of day, and so she'd be plotting out her strategy for when I handed the controller over to her, and it was a gaming experience I have yet to have again with anybody.
Yeah,
because it isn't just about playing with somebody or playing against somebody like traditional multiplayer games. It was multiplayer in the sense that you weren't playing at the same time, but you occupied that same world at different times, and it was just so cool.
Like so the way Tony and I would work it was, I'd wake up at 5. You know what I mean? Because at the time I was running a landscape company, so I'd wake up at 5 every day, and then I'd go downstairs at 5 o'clock on Saturday, and she was notorious for, this is so bad, she was notorious for, she would sleep in on the weekends, so she wouldn't wake up till like, okay. So I would typically wake her up every Saturday and Sunday around 10 o'clock. Because I was like, you don't want to sleep your day away. Like, I know that you're staying up later and all that on the weekends, but like, get up at 10 so we can spend time together on this. So when City Folk come out, I would just let her sleep. And she'd sleep till noon. And one day, I remember for this one Saturday, she came down. She was so mad that I let her sleep till 1 o'clock.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I just let her go. And she's like, she come down and she opens, the way it was we had a living room and there was a door like right in front, right next to the TV. And I hear her like stirring around upstairs. I'm like, oh boy. And then all of a sudden she comes downstairs and she just opens the door and she's staring at me. And I'm like, hey, good morning. She's like, it's 1 o'clock. And I was like, yeah, it's, she's like, I can't believe you let me sleep till 1 o'clock. I was like, I just figured you're really tired and you need to sleep. No, I'm down here fishing. She's like, I had fish to catch. I had this. And she's mad because she knew what I was doing. And she was like, I missed my time to catch fish and all that. So we had we were the same way where she would come down and I would play from 5 till 10, somewhere in there, or whatever it was. And then she would come down and be like, okay, it's my turn. And then we would kind of go back and forth. Same thing with you and Christy. The cool thing is we would be the same way. I'd have a strategy guide and I would be like, okay, I need to take the controls at 2 o'clock because at 3 o'clock, the fish shift, and from 1 to 3 is the gap. So you can have it from 1 to 2, but from 2 to 3, I need to go because the thing is, if you don't catch the fish in that time, you got to wait a year unless you time
Right.
travel. And I don't time travel.
Yeah, I was never one to like break the game, quote unquote, break the game
Mm-hmm.
to get things. I just wanted to experience it. I just wanted to live in the
Yeah.
world. So I hear people talk about manipulating stuff, and it's just like that's for a game that's not necessarily about anything except for just living in the world.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that takes so much of the fun and enjoyment out of it.
Yeah.
If you're just gonna, go behind the curtain and take what you want.
I agree. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Hmm.
It feels
Hmm.
a little lackluster. Some kind
You
of.
don't love Stitches like I love Stitches. I play the way he wants me to play.
This is true. This is true. What's like? So gyroids are your thing. Like,
Mhm.
but does this scratch the completionist bug for you? Like, are you going out trying to do every single thing, or?
Yes and no. I mean, I get a big kick out of filling that museum. Like you look at City Folk, it had such an elaborate museum, and I get a huge thrill out of filling that up and seeing how far I get. But at the same time, I don't bend over backwards to achieve like a percentage.
Mm-hmm.
That was never it for me. Was
Yeah.
to complete a catalog, because then what's next?
Yeah.
Like if you do complete that catalog, then if that's what you were playing for, then what do you do next? To me, it really was about just being a part of that world. I loved going and listening to KK play every Saturday night. I loved visiting the people at the thrift fair or whatever, when you would go into people's houses and buy stuff, or the tournaments. It was so much about just being there. And I
Yeah.
really hope that Nintendo takes that aspect of it to the next level. I mean, there are so many ways that they can go, but just the sense of immersion, I really want them to step up what it feels like to be there.
See, for me, I feel like New Leaf was the best version of everything, because what I feel like they did was they took all the best parts of all the games up until that point and put them all together.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, what I'm hoping is they give us New Leaf plus further iterations. And the reason now that I'm talking to you is I really hope they give us that, because I hope you get to experience some of the great stuff that was in New Leaf.
Right.
Because New Leaf kind of went full circle. Like, there was stuff that they took out of Wild World was just a shell of what the game really was. You
Yeah.
know, but with New Leaf, it was kind of like we brought all back the holidays. We did all the fetch questing again. That not as in depth as, not as monotonous and annoying as it was in the GameCube version, but just a little taste of it. They put that back in. They brought the city in, but you didn't actually leave and go to the city. It was just above the town.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it was just, the city was there. It was just above the town. And then they brought in the Happy Home Academy, which was above the city, and that was, if we street passed, your house would show up in this community. It was kind of like it was kind of just like a community where you would go up there, and there was all these houses, and I could go into the houses and I could buy certain items that you had in your house.
Interesting. Your exact house from your village. It was like a model home on display then?
It was actually like the house dropped in. I could walk in. I could look around. I could go every room. And then if you had a chair that I wanted, I would just go out front of the house, and there was a little kiosk. And you hit it, and it brings up all the furniture. And you go through. Some things aren't buyable. Like, there's some of those rare items that you couldn't buy. But most stuff, you would go in, and you can only buy 5 items a day. So you go in, and you start buying these things, and then they get mailed, shipped to your house. And then, I think the next day you would get all the items showing up at your house.
What was house expansion like in New Leaf? Because that's another thing that I always felt Nintendo was just so restrictive on, is like what you could do with your house.
So in New Leaf, what they did was your houses went very similar to, if you remember how Wild World was, because in Wild World everybody was playing in the same house. So what they did with Wild World was they tried to expand the rooms and make the rooms really big. So they were basically taking what was the original GameCube version and saying like, here's your house, here's the expansions. It's what it does. What they did was, so your first floor got like 2 expansions. Then you could put a room to the right, the left, the back. Then you could go upstairs, and I believe you couldn't do rooms right, left, back on that, but you could. So that you had the main room that you walked in, the room to the right. The main room got like 3 expansions. The room to the right, the back, and the left, those got 2 expansions. You could go upstairs, that got 3 expansions, and you could go into the basement, and that got 3 expansions. And then,
no kidding.
Yeah, man, it was massive.
Well, they really stepped it up.
They really stepped up. And then you go outside, and the outside, you could change the color of the roof. You could change the shingles on the roof. Like, you could put, like, clay. Like, you could put all these different styles on the roof. You could change the style of house. They had like 4 or 5 different styles. You could do like a modern mansion. You could do like all these like little cabin type things. You could change the paint scheme on it. You could change like the shrubbery around the front of the house. Like there was a lot of things that you could do with that one, which I hope they definitely bring back without a doubt.
I would love to see Nintendo take a Sims approach to house construction, where they give you a plot of land and then they give you like building tools. So it's not only just expansions, but like you literally construct the framework of your house. I would die if they gave you that kind of creative tool.
Yeah. Well, the crazy thing was, and you obviously didn't play Happy Home Designer. With Happy Home Designer, they changed the way you move furniture. So what happened with Happy Home Designer was it became a grid-based system. Kind of like the easiest way to explain it is you've played Battleship before, right?
Yep.
Okay, so you know how you put Battleship, you put the pieces like this and to the side, but you place all your ships in how you want it. Same exact way with the furniture. So if you have this couch, the couch might have been 3 spots long, so you could drop it wherever you wanted, and then so that's the way you did it. What they did was they had an update to New Leaf where they did this whole big add-on. They added like an RV center, like a campsite. But what they did was they added the Happy Home Designer way of setting up furniture, which was what's really cool is, so you know how when you had a table and you might want to put something on top of the table, but some things don't go on top of the table, but some things do. This would actually tell you, like, when you put the table down, it put like a plus mark on the right. And like, let's say the table had like 3 spots to it, right?
It had like slots for the.
So then you knew you could put items on top. And then you could look and go like, okay, that item actually is one that you put on top of stuff. So you could put a plant on top of the table, or you could put a dish on top of the table. Like you could actually design the top of the table as well. So it made it very easy to recognize that, like, hey, I can actually take this bag of money and drop it on top of the table. It's not going to land on the floor because the table's not big enough to actually hold stuff on top of it.
Right.
So that was kind of cool that they added. So I'm hoping that they take that aspect with the new one as well and add that. So real quick, though, because you said you had the Wii U and you were hoping, did you buy Amiibo Festival or no?
No, I heard too many horror stories. I do have a ton of the Amiibo.
Okay.
And I am one of the Animal Crossing Amiibo apologists, where I'm like, screw you guys, these are amazing.
I love them.
I have these villagers up on my shelf here in my office. Unfortunately, you can't see them because of the camera positioning, but I loved those things.
Yeah.
For real.
I did too.
And
actually,
again, I was just
actually
like,
went out and bought
I don't need that because eventually those will work with the Wii U Animal Crossing game, right?
I think they'll work on the Switch one, I think. But I actually went and rebought this.
Oh, there you go.
Because I wanted it complete in box. Because I was like, one day this is gonna be worth $1 million, and I have it.
The biggest tease for me, above Amiibo Festival and above the lobby that never did anything, was the track in Mario Kart 8.
Oh God.
Because that was not only was that a great like taste of the Animal Crossing universe, but it showed me that you can make an Animal Crossing game where you've got like a chase camera behind you, like a la Mario 64, and that would be perfection. I don't want the next game to have that floating crane cam anymore. I want to be down on ground level. I want the canopy of trees above me, and I want to really be in that world. And that Mario Kart track was the best realization of an Animal Crossing city, of actually being there, that any game has produced yet.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'm actually, by the time this goes up, it'll be out. I'm actually at this point working on a video, Adam, with the coolest Easter eggs from that Mario Kart track. They have some amazing things in this. You pull up alongside Nook's Cranny, you hear Nook's Cranny music playing. Tom Nook's out there waving. Each season, KK Slider moves around. He's in different sections. I went up. I showed where they're at. The Mabel, or the Able sisters, when you pull up there, they have the helmets from the amiibo you scan in. So you know how when you scanned in Star Fox, and you had a cool looking helmet that you could use on your Mii? That Mii helmet is sitting in the window. That, Kirby, and Mario. So when those helmets are in the side window, where you get, dude, so much cool stuff in that game. So much cool stuff.
It's outstanding. It really is.
It is. It's fantastic. And it's the same thing. Like, when I played that game for the first time, I was like, I just want to get out and just run around. I don't even want to race. I don't even want to race. Just let me get out and run around.
What do you think the odds are that Nintendo ever deviates from that standard Animal Crossing formula and gives us something like that? I mean, I don't think it's going to happen, but I mean, God, I can't imagine anybody who played that track didn't want that, didn't have that same thought.
I think the problem is this. So I think it could come. It's just not going to be the next one.
Yeah.
I think it could happen. I think that if, there's no reason why it couldn't, and it makes sense ultimately, but I think the problem is that they've had to been working on this game for so long. Had to have. But man, could you imagine you show up in a town and it starts off like your typical Animal Crossing, and then all of a sudden the camera just drops.
Oh.
Boom, 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 and then just locks right behind you. Like a true third-person game where it's right over your shoulder or right behind you, and it's like, oh my God. And then you go running into town, and like you're running through the actual, and it feels more like you're laying out your plot paths and all. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, if they did something like that, they could do so much more with like topography. It doesn't have to be just flat ground. There can be rolling hills and divots in the ground, and
like the game.
Yeah.
You play, or like the track. Like you play that track, and it feels like you're going up and down. Like you start that race, you take off, right? And you hit that first jump, little brick putt, you turn around, you're going through the trees, you zip around the corner, you hit that ramp, you go into the main city, right? Where the water fountain is. You go over the water fountain, and then it feels like you go down along to the beach. Then the minute you make that wraparound where Tom looks to the crane, it feels like you're going back uphill again, back to the start-finish line, but it feels like you're going back up again. And so it gives this impression that, like, there's two different levels. You're starting high, you go down low, you come back up. Man, yes, please. Like, that would be so cool, man. That's the one thing that I've mentioned a couple times in these shows is I like that the city folk how there was different levels. And I would like it to take it a step further, or make it 3 levels. So you have a top level, and up in there, maybe it's always snowy. And then the middle level is kind of like the change of the seasons. And then the bottom level, where the beach is kind of always summery and stuff.
A little more organic.
Yeah, and I would like that to keep it so that way you have this different feel, like you are in different areas of a mountain or something, to give a little vibe to it. But I also would like a bigger area, like.
Yeah, that's exact. And listening to you talk about that, I was thinking in my brain, they, as crappy as Pocket Camp is, they did something really interesting of having those different locations which can provide different things. And if you did all of that in one big open world, and just like really expand it, and you can have like caves or in that mountain area that you can go and explore and maybe mine for ore or something. Just make it a more living, breathing world so that you never hit that point where inevitably in all Animal Crossing games you hit that point where you're just like, am I doing the same thing over and over again? And if they really took advantage of what the Switch can do, I mean, you look at Breath of the Wild, the Switch can create worlds that are, as far as the eye can see.
Yeah.
And they don't need to do that because obviously you still want to keep it tight.
Yeah.
But, really expand it, make it more organic, make the world have just more to see beyond the villagers and the shops and the stuff. Make it exploration. I mean, this was originally Animal Forest, like it's about exploring this world. Give us a little bit more exploration. That would be fantastic.
I would love to be kind of take on a Minecraft aspect a little bit, where maybe there's a cave, and rather than you randomly having 3 fossils buried within your town every day, or 4 fossils, you go into these caves and you mine. And maybe, because again, something you didn't realize in the new one was you would hit these rocks and inevitably you would get the money rock occasionally, but there was also these rocks that would shatter, and when they shattered you would get a crystal, and you could actually take those crystals and you could either sell them or you could take them to retail. And there's a guy in there, Cyrus, who would actually edit the colors of your furniture. So you could go in there with a piece of furniture, the one furniture in particular, the Astro furniture, which is like all white, all space feel, and it's orange. You could take that furniture into him, give him the furniture, give him 2 blue crystals, pay him a certain amount of money, and he would turn that orange into like a midnight blue.
That's just like dyeing your clothes in Breath of the Wild, then, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much, yeah.
Interesting.
So I would like to see something like that, where rather than going around town and smashing rocks, maybe you still have the money rock, and that's what you're trying to hit the rocks for. But maybe you go into this mine, and maybe the mine resets like once every day, like typical. And maybe there's certain things you have to go find. And maybe you know what I mean? Like, and maybe you get a pickaxe and you're digging holes and stuff, and you're opening the mine up a little bit further. Like, just to give you something additional to do.
Yeah.
Because the one additional thing that they did in New Leaf that I thought was a nice advancement was you could go out in the water and dive.
Really?
You go swimming in the water, right? And then you dive down under the ground and you bring up different sea urchins and like seaweed and jellyfish and all these different things you're catching underwater, like you're snorkeling. You're going underwater and grabbing stuff and then taking it back. Cool.
I feel like we've set my expectations for this next game way out of reach, but at the same time, hearing you talk about New Leaf and knowing how much time has passed since City Folk, I know when this game hits, I'm going to be more than satisfied, because
you're gonna be in love.
I have had this wide gap in my Animal Crossing play, and there are going to be, I'm sure, multiple innovations that were in New Leaf in this new one. Plus, on top of that, a lot of stuff we don't know. So I'm so excited.
It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to experience it with you, because it's going to be cool. And the thing is, it's like I have so many friends now that are playing the game and love the series that, I mean, I'll be streaming it all the time. And, like, it'd be so cool to be like, hey, Adam, what are you doing tonight? Why don't you come over to the town? And, like, you come over, we trade and do all kinds of stuff. And then, like...
I'm finally going to get Nintendo Online.
Oh, I can't stand you. I can't stand you, man. You and your brother really work my nerves, man. The two of you.
That's what we're here for. That's why you love us.
I don't understand the hate.
There's no hate.
There's hate.
No hate.
There's hate.
I'm just saving. I'm just saving the money. It's fine.
If you need the $20, I'll give you the $20. It's fine. And I won't even make you draw me anything. I'll just give you $20. Yeah. Well, I told you, do anything for money, so there you go. Adam, real quickly, let people know where they can... before we do that, is there anything else that you'd like to discuss about like your experience with Animal Crossing? Is there anything we missed or anything you want to bring up? Or
I think we've covered it. I just need to one last time. First of all, thank you for having me on the show.
Stop it!
I mean,
Stop it!
Animal Crossing is one of my favorite franchises. Even though I haven't played that many installments, it just speaks to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always fun to podcast with you. You're such a good dude,
Thank
and
you.
I really appreciate how we've gotten to work together over the last couple of years. And anytime I get to be on one of these shows, whether it's Nintendo PlayStation podcast or now this or any other, hey, if you got any new shows in the pipeline, I'll be on those too. um, I really appreciate the opportunity. I don't do a lot of guest spots, honestly. It's just it's hard for me with my time and my situation. But anytime you need me, I'm always up for it.
It also helps that I'm just like, whatever you want to do, Adam. Anytime, whatever. I want you on the show. It doesn't matter. You come to me last minute. Hey, can we push this back a couple weeks? No problem, Adam. Whatever you want.
I felt so bad.
No, stop it.
Yeah,
I understand. Listen, holiday. Everybody was sick at the holiday. You didn't get a true holiday with the kids. I get it. That's fine.
But this was absolutely a blast, and I am so pumped because, like you said, this new Animal Crossing game, it isn't just going to be a thing contained in my house. Like, this is going to be the best experience for me online. I don't play games online on any system. So I may grieve Nintendo, but I don't play online really on anything. Just because it's not really my thing, you know? But this is the kind of game where I won't feel like I'm not as good as the other guy, or I won't feel that competitive edge, or that I have to keep up with it to keep pace. This is going to be the perfect game for me to interact with the community, and I'm really looking forward to that because that's not typically the kind of game that I like to play. But here we go.
Did you play any online with City Folk or no?
Very little.
Yeah.
Very little. To extent that I went to John's village and he went to mine. My brother John.
But you still did. You still did a little.
Yep.
Did you use the We Speak?
I did. When we bought City Folk,
it came with We Speak.
It was, it's kind of a funny story because I didn't get that game immediately at launch, and I don't even know why. I remember walking into a GameStop with Christy, and it was like on clearance.
Oh
I'm
my
God! I'm sure it didn't even sell very well. So time had passed. This game had its time already, and I was like, "Wow, shit!" Oops, sorry.
You're fine.
For $30, I'm gonna pick this up, right? I actually really liked the We Speak. It was kind of cool to just be able to set that up and talk to anybody in
the other room. It felt like they were in the room with you.
Right, with the way Animal Crossing works, where everybody's just kind of sitting on the couch watching anyway. Mm-hmm. John and his wife are sitting in the couch in their house, and we're all just having a communal conversation. It was really cool.
Yeah, pretty neat. That's pretty neat. We'll talk afterwards. That's fine. I got an idea, but we'll figure it out. Anyway, real quickly, let everybody know where they can find you at and find what you do.
Sure, absolutely. I am on Twitter as @theartofadaml. You can also find everything that we do over on Megadads. It's my podcast, website, video series stuff that I do with my brother. That's megadads.org. We are two extremely old people that don't have a lot of time to game, and it's all about looking at gaming from a different perspective when you do it.
Good Lord, you're a mess. Anyway.
You have no idea, man.
Thank you.
No idea.
Thank you for doing this again. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Please, if you guys are looking for artwork or need logos, please hit up Adam. He is really talented. If you like the stuff that he does for me, you'll love the stuff that he can do for you. So that is all. Follow me over on Instagram, Twitter, @Nintendo Gurus. Check me out over at nintendoguru.com. That is all. Peace out, Preston.